Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This week on acne, let's talk about it. We're going to talk about Accutane. We're going to talk about what you need to do to be prescribed Accutane, what you need to do each month to continue to get your prescriptions, what to expect when you're on Accutane, and some things that you should avoid when you're on Accutane. And a lot of this information that I have for you, some was told to me by the dermatologist, but other things I either had to research myself or I had to find out the hard way. Things that maybe you should avoid while on Accutane. So let's go ahead and get started. Last week we talked about what it was like growing up with acne, how it sort of affected me as a person, and how I think it might affect other people when you grow up with something that is labeled just as so, I don't want to say disgusting because that's a bit of an exaggeration, but when you grow up with something that's just seen as dirty or unclean or just something that's a little disfiguring, it stays with you your whole life. We talked about the things that I did growing up that weren't so great for my skin to try to get rid of acne, thinking that it would help, like using astringents, rubbing alcohol, benzoyl peroxide, salicylic acid, all at the same time, and how that's just a little too harsh for the skin. We talked about using diabetic lancets, which are little needles, to drain the cysts on my face because they would get so severe and so big, and there was no other option but to drain some of that fluid. We talked about how people treated me because of my acne, how as a kid, girls could be mean. I had an instance one time where a guy said some pretty cruel things after being rejected, knowing that they would cut me pretty deep as far as things about my skin and how I was actually really not pretty at all, and he never really thought so to begin with. And all the things sort of leading up to this moment of being prescribed Accutane. So now we're on to finally talking about Accutane, what it is, how it works, what to expect, how to get it, what to do while you're on it, etc. So these videos might not be as long. Now that we've kind of got the backstory out of the way, things might be a little quicker from now on. So if last week's video was a little too long for you, I apologize. I hope that from now on we can keep these under 30 or even under 20 minutes. So Accutane, or also known as Accutane, I took the brand Absorica, is all a synthetic derivative of vitamin A. And when you take it, what it does is it stops your body from producing oil because it's permanently shrinking your oil glands. It's working from the inside out. If you take or if you use any sort of topical retinoid cream, that is also a topical form of vitamin A. So this works from the inside out. So there can be some pretty crazy side effects. I read a study a while ago when I was researching all of this stuff about how Accutane works and what it does to the body. And I read in a study, some people found that people with cystic acne have a more gummy skin texture. So as your skin sheds, it clumps together and sort of stays in the pores, and that's what clogs your pores and causes those intense large cysts. People with cystic acne also, I read that their skin sheds about 5 times faster than most people. So you're shedding all of that dense skin and it's staying in there, which can cause those flare-ups of constant cysts. And what Accutane does is it changes the texture of the skin so that it's less gummy. It helps the skin shed at a normal rate. It shrinks the oil glands so that you're not producing as much oil because you need oil to have acne. And though it kind of works in that way to permanently help your skin be better than it was before going on it. So that's how Accutane works. I was on the brand Absorica, and if you go to Absorica's website, you'll see the information there. What I liked about Absorica is that other Accutane pills You have to eat when you take them because it's fat soluble, and you need that fat in order to absorb all of the medicine into the body. Otherwise, it might not work as well. Absorica is different. You do not need to eat when you take it. So you'll still get the same dose of medicine and you'll still absorb it to your best abilities, even if you don't eat with it. So that's why I liked it. I could take it whenever I wanted to and didn't have to worry about if I was getting all of the medicine absorbed into my body. So that's why I liked the one that I took. What you need to do to get Accutane, with some insurance here in the United States, you need to prove that you've tried other methods of curing your acne before going on Accutane. So I had to take the antibiotics and the topicals and be on things for a long time to prove that my acne wasn't getting any better before I was able to have my insurance pay for most of Accutane. You need to take a pregnancy test. Once your doctor finally says, yes, we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna do Accutane, you need to take a pregnancy test that moment in the doctor's office to prove that you're not pregnant if you're a woman. And then you need to wait 30 days from then to go in again, take another pregnancy test, and get your pills, get the prescription. From that first pregnancy test, I went off of all other acne medications. I went off of all topicals, all antibiotics, and I just let my skin sort of, if it was gonna get worse, I was just gonna let it just get rid of whatever it needed to get rid of, build up as much oil as I could, and then start fresh with the pills. I actually think that my skin looked pretty good when I started Accutane, but I would have developed more cysts later on had I waited. Once you take that first pregnancy test, you have a 30-day waiting period where you will get a letter in the mail from the I Pledge program giving you all the information about the birth defects that can be caused by Accutane. You will learn very quickly that Accutane is very dangerous if you're pregnant, and you cannot go on it if you're pregnant. If you become pregnant, there are a lot of issues that could happen. So it's very important to make sure that you don't get pregnant. They send you pamphlets making sure that you understand what birth control is, how to use it, how to practice safe sex, and blah, 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 blah. Once you sign up for the iPledge program, you'll have your own account, and you'll need that information before you can get your pills each month. When you go into your 30-day, after the 30-day waiting period, you go into the doctor, you take another pregnancy test. You'll probably have to do some blood work before to prove that everything is okay before starting the pills. Make sure your cholesterol is good because Accutane can raise your cholesterol. You'll take another pregnancy test. You'll fill out your questions on your account on the iPledge program, proving that you know how to use birth control. You have to have 2 forms of birth control that you're using, and then you'll get your pills. And then you start taking your pills 1 a day, however many the doctor says. Take what your doctor suggests. And then after you get prescribed your first dose of pills, they'll probably ask you to get another round of blood work while on Accutane to see if it's affected you in any way, if it's affected your cholesterol or anything like that. Every month, they only give you it's a 30-day supply. So every month you go into the doctor, so that's a copay every month while you're on Accutane if you pay copays. You do your pregnancy test, you fill out your questions, and only then can you get your prescription. And then you can only get it within so many days after filling out those questions. So you have to just be very diligent while getting this medicine. It's some serious stuff. They really try to make sure that there is no harm done to any fetuses while on this medicine, and just to make sure that no women have to go through dealing with all of the horrors of all that kind of stuff. It can be very, very ugly very quickly if you're not careful. You just have to be careful. So expect your acne to flare up when you first start taking it. It won't necessarily happen, but it can. It did for me. I'll actually put a picture up right now. And that was a picture of the last cyst that I ever got. And it was a behemoth. It was on my chin. It was, I'm not even joking, it was like the evil three-headed dog from Harry Potter. And it had 3 heads. It was the size of a quarter. It felt like the size of a golf ball. It was just so painful. And I'll never forget it because it was the last one that I've had. And it has been 9 months. So I'm very, very pleased with that. So just expect a little something. I just got the one. It was a big one, but I just got one. So it was okay in retrospect to how many I had before. And it went away pretty quickly compared to other cysts that I had. I did not lance it. I did not do anything to it. It eventually, I think, opened up and drained on its own because it was so giant, but I did not do anything to it because you cannot do anything to your skin when you're on Accutane. You can't pick, you can't pop, you can't exfoliate, you need a very gentle skincare routine, which next episode we will talk about products that are safe while on Accutane. So if you get a flare up, just don't touch it. Just go about your normal, gentle skincare routine. Leave it alone. It will go away and it will only get better from there. Expect dryness. I didn't notice much of a difference until 1 week into my pills. My lips started to get dry and my face started to get dry. And then after that, I got to a point where I just got drier and drier until I hit a point where that was just how dry I was for the next few months until I came off of it. Your lips are extremely dry. I had a chapstick on my nightstand in my bathroom that I would take in the shower with me because after I washed my face, I had to reapply chapstick. They were so dry and so tight. I had a chapstick in my car. I had one in my purse. I had one in my work bag. I had one in my fiance's car. Chapstick everywhere. And you'll need it. You'll need it anywhere you go. There were a lot of times I was out in public and had forgotten a chapstick, and like I got a coffee and was just drinking the coffee and the chapstick that was on my lips coming off. It was just like, I was like, oh my gosh, I just wish I had my chapstick. Or if you go out to eat especially, you're really just gonna want that chapstick. Make sure you always have it on you. Dry skin, chapped lips, you might get some nosebleeds. Perfectly normal because your nasal passages are so dry. You can take moisturizing ointments and put them up in your nose to kind of help with the dryness. I only got 1 or 2 nosebleeds, which I'm surprised because the air in my house was extremely dry and I was on Accutane in the winter. It was super, super dry with the high efficiency furnace, and I'm really shocked I didn't get more nosebleeds. It did hurt to breathe sometimes though, because my nasal passages were so dry and the dry air going in was just a little painful, but just a little ointment around the nose, and I'll show you the favorite one that I had in our next video. But to keep things moving along, expect a little bit of eczema. I had eczema patches around my eyes, and now that I'm off of Accutane, I actually still get some sensitivity under my eyes and some spots here and there, but nothing I can't handle. I had eczema on the tops of my hands, and that was really about it. I had really dry eyes. Wearing contacts was kind of hard. I had eye drops in my work bag so that if I was teaching and I couldn't see, I could put them in real quick. Dry mouth. I had a bit of a dry mouth. It wasn't too bad. I always had water with me though. Dry skin all over. Accutane just stops your entire body from producing oil. So the entire body is dry. You just need to moisturize and don't take as hot of showers. That was really hard for me. I love taking a hot shower, and I love in the winter especially, which is when I was on Accutane, I love taking hot showers. I know they're not that good for your skin, and I always make sure to turn the water to the cooler side if I'm washing my face in the shower, but the minute I'm done with the face area and the décolleté, I crank the heat up. And I know it's still not good for the rest of my skin, but I can't help it. I love it. So if you can, try not to take too hot of showers because it did make my skin a lot drier. But nothing I really couldn't handle. Lotion really helped. Any sort of body cream for the rest of my body, and it really wasn't that bad at all. Even the skin on my face was dry, but it wasn't unmanageable to me. Maybe it's because I've had such oily skin my entire life that having some dry skin for a while was actually kind of nice to experience the opposite side of things. And it kind of made me appreciate having more oily skin. The other thing that I can tell you is something that I was not really warned about beforehand was the joint pain. I was told if I had pain to let them know because it could have been a sign of something else, but I wasn't told that it was guaranteed to happen or almost guaranteed to happen. I wasn't told it was one of the most common side effects of Accutane until after I mentioned it to them. And I was not prepared for how intensely bad it hurt. Now, I am extremely sensitive to everything. I'm sensitive to medications, even Benadryl. I won't feel great after taking one Benadryl for a couple days after I take it. I'm very sensitive. I'm sensitive to foods. I'm sensitive to emotions. I'm just a sensitive person in all aspects of my life, not just emotionally speaking, but with everything. My skin is sensitive, and I think I was on the very sensitive side of taking this medicine, and I think the amount of pain I was in was excessive. And I think it was just the way my body responded to being on this medicine, because I wasn't on that high of a dose. I took 40 milligrams a day because I don't weigh a lot, and they base it off of your weight. So maybe that was a high dose for me because I don't weigh that much, but it was very painful. It started in my heels. I remember Christmas, waking up and walking around and just noticing that my heels, like the bottom, when I walked on the floor, it hurt. And I just thought, that's weird. And it progressively started to go up my legs and into my knees and into my hips and into my back and into my shoulders and my neck and my arms. And before I knew it, my entire body was stiff. It was sore. It hurt so bad. I mean, there were many nights that I was on the couch when my fiance got home from work at 11 o'clock at night, and I was just sobbing because I was in so much pain. And it wasn't even just the pain. I can get through pain. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia at a fairly young age, and I have been used to chronic pain. But this was a constant, chronic, deep pain that caused more stiffness than I had ever dealt with in my life, and that's what was so frustrating. I was just getting into teaching yoga at the time, and all of a sudden I was stiff and could barely do anything. And I was teaching and I was frustrated. I'm like, I do yoga all the time. I should feel better. And my doctor kept saying, just stretch. If you just stretch, you're gonna feel better. You just hurt in the morning and then that's it. And that was not it. It was a constant all day long. Towards the last, I would say the last 3 months, I was taking Advil multiple times a day just to get the pain bearable enough that I could function. And when I woke up in the morning, I could barely walk. It was hard. It was one of the hardest things that I've ever gone through. And if my doctor told me that I had to go on Accutane again to get clearer skin, I would probably not be willing to do it. I'm gonna be honest. Unless something very detrimental happened to my skin, I don't think I would go back on Accutane. If I got a cyst once or twice a year, I think I would put up with that. I have some bumps and stuff now from my skin adjusting, and if my doctor said if I went on Accutane it would get rid of this, I would say no. It was the hardest treatment that I've ever dealt with, besides coming off of certain antidepressants that were very addictive and dependent. This is one of the hardest things that I've ever had to deal with. And it was just constant. I was tired from being in pain. I couldn't sleep at night because I couldn't get comfortable. When I woke up, I hurt. When I went to bed, I hurt. And I just remember being so cranky all the time, and I was frustrated, and I would snap at my fiance 24/7, and I was just angry because it was so painful. And my skin was dry, and I was just uncomfortable. I was so uncomfortable that it made me mad. And so I tell people, if they want to go on this medicine, It's not for the faint of heart. It's not just if you have a little pimple here and there, go on Accutane and your skin will be perfect forever. This is for people that have been severely affected by their skin and feel as though the only way to fix it is to take this drug. I would not recommend this to teenagers because I think that for a lot of teenagers, once your hormones balance out, you'll be fine. I would not recommend this to people with minimal acne. I only would say if your acne causes severe emotional distress to do this. And if that's where you're at, I encourage you to try it because it did, at least for the time being, it has stopped my cysts. And I've never gone 9 months in my life without having a cyst. So I am grateful for what Accutane has done for me. If they up your dose at the last time to get your prescription, sometimes they'll do that. They'll put you on a certain dose and then they'll up it. If they ever up your dose the last month or the last 2 months, expect another flare up. They did not up my last dose, but this was a dumb idea and I don't do it. I was so anxious to get off of this drug because I hated it so much and I was so excited to be done that my last week of pills I took in a couple of days. And so I got a concentrated dose all at once and I ended up getting, it was not really a cyst. It was not really much of a pimple at all, but it was this, again, on this cheek area where I'm very prone to breaking out. I got this little thing and it went away in a week. It was nothing crazy. It didn't ever get big. It didn't even hurt. It was not painful. It was just a weird red mark. So expect that if they up your dose at any time. Make sure to wear sunscreen, especially if it's the summertime when you go on this. It was the winter for me, so I really wasn't outside that often. So that wasn't a huge part for me. And I always wear layers when I go outside, and I was never really outside to be exposed to the elements. Makeup application is hard, but it is doable. If you are somebody that has to wear makeup for work, if you work in a salon or you're a makeup artist or whatever, or if you just love wearing makeup, it's difficult to apply when you're on Accutane, but it's doable. If you're doing a matte lipstick, make sure to kind of exfoliate the lips beforehand, get all the dead skin off, put chapstick on first, and then do a matte lipstick. It might not stay as matte and it might come off easy, but you won't be able to wear a matte lipstick with nothing on your lips first on Accutane. It is hard to get your foundation to look nice with dry skin, especially in the chin where it gets kind of crusty. Just be wary of that. Make sure your skin feels moisturized before you go in with foundation, and use a moisturizing foundation. Don't use anything like Cover FX Power Play. That's what I use now and I love it, but that would not work on Accutane at all. Gentle skincare routine, I already said that. Nothing with salicylic acid, nothing with benzoyl peroxide, no exfoliating, no microdermabrasions or any crazy facial treatments. And no waxing. You can't wax your eyebrows, you can't wax your upper lip or your chin, sorry. Your skin will rip off, 100%, it'll rip off. So don't do that. And that's really, I think, everything that you need to expect being on it. Next week, we'll talk about products. My favorite products that I used while on Accutane, some of which I still use. We'll talk about certain tips and tricks, things to help you get through the hard things like the dry lips and the dry skin. I'll show you some of my favorite lip treatments and some of my favorite lotions and stuff. And that will be next week. So we were under 25 minutes today. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope everybody gets some happiness out of this video. I hope this helped some of you kind of decide if you want to be on Accutane, or maybe helps you in your journey, if you're already on it, learning some of these things. Another thing that I almost forgot to mention, my doctor did not tell me this. You cannot drink on Accutane. You can have a drink or two, but you can't go out and party on Accutane. At least I couldn't. I did not know this. And I went out and I had a few drinks. I was with my fiance. We were having a good time. Nothing crazy. I maybe had 4 or 5 and I was violently throwing up in the bathroom because Accutane is processed in the liver. that's where alcohol is processed. So if your liver is working to process your Accutane, it can't keep up with the same amount of alcohol that you normally could drink. So keep that in mind if you're on Accutane. Nobody told me that, and I really think that that's something that maybe doctors should tell their patients. But again, it's just me. What do I know? I'm not a doctor, but keep that in mind. Just be careful. Just be careful. Just be gentle, and you will get through it. Just keep telling yourself what you are going to get out of this, and it's going to be better than what you're going through right now. If you're dealing with that pain, it is hard. I know. I had so many times I had the intention of walking into the dermatologist's office and saying, I'm done, take me off of this, I can't. But every time I went in, I'm like, it's only 3 more months. It's only 2 more months. It's only 1 more month, and then my skin will be better than it's ever been. And it has been. There have been some issues, but it has been better. It has been worth it. Stick with it and you'll do fine. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you want to get notifications about when these videos post. Subscribe below. You can follow me on Instagram at yogi.blair. I post a lot about my yoga schedules on there when I'm teaching, but I also do post about skin from time to time. I show a lot of my selfies with my makeup done. If you're interested in seeing more about makeup, we'll talk about that later on. You can find me on Facebook too. I have an album on Facebook with all of my skincare pictures on there, my before and after. So feel free to find me anywhere, add me, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Make sure to hit the like button and leave a comment below if you have any other questions about your skincare. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Namaste.